Happy Wednesday. I'm really excited because we have another Mavens in Manufacturing today. And with us, we have Angela, who is from Woodward Incorporated. Hello, Angela. How are you doing today?
I'm great. Thanks so much, Megan. Excited to be on the show.
Yes, and for anyone tuning in today, please feel free to drop comments. If you have any questions, feel free to drop those in the comment sections as well. I love everybody to be as engaged as possible, and I don't want to be the only one asking questions. So if you have a question, feel free to drop it in the comments, and I'll pull it in. But Angela, let's get started with you. Can you share your journey as a non-traditional student and a single parent pursuing engineering degrees? Because I think you were starting out with your PhD or master's or something like that, and then you just decided to take the pivot. So give us some background about who you are and how you ended up in this industry.
Yeah, sure. As a kid, I was always interested in science and physics and astronomy, but I didn't really know where to pursue that. Didn't know what an engineer was until I went back to school in my 30s. So it's been a really windy path to get here, which I think is similar to a lot of other women that I talk to that are in the tech field, and men too. So my path started out, I was classically trained cellist. And so that was really where a lot of my energy and time went into, especially when I went to college and couldn't really decide on what I wanted to do. I was in school for physics, but I didn't have a precise goal, and I had an opportunity to continue playing my cello professionally, and I jumped at that. So to, make ends meet, I was working in customer service facing positions, hospitality, restaurants, that kind of thing, to kind of support studio schedules and other opportunities with live music. And I did that up until a certain point when I had my daughter. And I had my daughter at 27, and I was doing an operational director for a large restaurant group in Seattle. And I was working, 60 hours a week, and had a kind of a crazy schedule and trying to cover things with childcare. And I was like, this isn't what I want to be doing. I want something that is, more stable. I also wanted something that was going to kind of have more of an impact. And I think I credit that to just, you bring a kid into the world and your whole, vision of how you perceive things just shifts. So I started taking a single class at the community college just to get back into my degree in the swing. And I happened to have a really amazing engineering 101 class just a seminar, an incredible professor. And he said, if you want to change the world, or if you want to help people, don't be a doctor, because you're really only helping a small bit of people at a time. Be an engineer. And I was like, okay, I like this idea. I really want to have large impact. How do I do that? So in this class, they introduce you to all different types of engineers. There was a Society of Women Engineers local chapter that I got involved with. And from that, it just started opening doors for me as to what opportunities were out there. I also had an incredible mentor in the chemistry department who was kind of nudging me into doing undergraduate research and exploring chemistry a bit more. And I really loved that as well. So I was thinking engineering, I really like chemistry and science. Okay, chemical engineering. And so that's what I picked, not really fully knowing what a path of a chemical engineer was. What are the traditional jobs? I didn't really understand what chemical engineering was. So I transferred into University of Washington for this. And I was probably in my junior year when I was like, oh, that's what a chemical engineer is. But along the way, I was doing other things that were I was exploring the world of science and engineering in a very unique way, I think, because I had my daughter, and I had a big support group helping me, friends. I had a friend who was a nanny and helping me with the daycare portion of it. I had a partner for a short period of time, or a long period of time, actually, of a couple of years when I was doing my degree, to kind of help me balance all this. But I did have to step back from the work I was doing at the restaurant. And then, it's a financial crunch to kind of do it. But I had professors who were giving me opportunities with scholarship and ways to supplement my finances to continue down the path of trying to stay in school, stay in an engineering field, supplement the studies with a paying job in the lab or something like that. And I had a lot of amazing mentors that helped me along the way, kind of direct me. And I was exploring different types of engineering. I was taking other classes outside of my department. I was doing extracurricular stuff like building rockets, and that's where I started to get into aerospace. So my mentor, Dr. Robert Wingley in the Earth and Space Sciences Department was like, hey, you really have a knack for this. And there are chemical engineers that do this work. And I was like, really? So I credit him with a lot of where my path ended up. He also would put in, letters of recommendation for fellowships and other things like that that continued to push me down the path of research and engineering. And so, it just was this very windy career, but also led by amazing supportive mentors. And I would say peer mentors too. I had a really incredible cohort in the chemical engineering department at University of Washington, had incredible professors, and they all kind of gave me the support structure I needed to try to get me through doing this as a parent, doing this as a non-traditional student, and helping me kind of figure out where my niche was going to be within engineering. And all of that kind of was leading more and more towards aerospace. So that's where I then looked at pursuing a graduate degree. I wanted to get my PhD, but I decided I should switch over to aerospace engineering because I was really having a hard time finding a job as a chemical engineer with an undergraduate degree. So University of Michigan had this great program, the Aerospace Engineering Department, where it was kind of combining some of my random experiences in a nanofab facility, chemical engineering. I did some ionic liquid work in the aerospace department in an undergraduate lab. And the PhD project that my advisor there had put in mind for me was to do electrosprays in space propulsion, electric propulsion. So I thought, okay, well, all these things that didn't seem to be lined up were all lined up. And that's when I made the jump to Michigan and moved with my daughter out to Ann Arbor to start my PhD out there. And then turned left.
Turned left. So with all of that going on, I feel like there's a lot of questions that happen within women when they're on a certain pathway to a career, right? And then add a family into it. There is a lot of self-doubt that comes up, like, can I do this? Is this worth it? And I don't know about you, but I have a similar story with like going to school full-time, working full-time, and being a mom full-time and having to drive back and forth. And there were a lot of nights where I just kind of broke down and cried because I was just like, is there a light at the end of this tunnel? So what were some of the biggest challenges you faced while doing all of that balancing act between, school and work and parenthood? Like, what were some of the big obstacles you faced and didn't think you would be able to overcome?
I mean, this was a huge, imposter syndrome was huge, I think, and it still is. I'm going to be really frank and vulnerable here and tell people that even when when you've achieved what you believe to be your level of success, you still have imposter syndrome. It's something that you have to work through. And very successful people have it too. So, but it was bigger and more loomy then because it was unknown as to like, where was I going to end up and how was I going to pay for all this? I think the biggest stressors were financial. I mean, that's just, when you make the money that a student makes, when you're not, you're supplementing your work. Like I was still picking up shifts in the summer at a local restaurant, which was amazing because it was how I was floating the rest of the year. I was getting some paid, I had some student loans and those kinds of things. You just kind of patchwork it together. But there were times where, and specifically when I was at my PhD, which is part of the driving factor of leaving and going into industry was, I was at the food bank in line. And I'm, maybe a year and a half into my PhD. And I'm like, I literally am here because I don't have money to feed my kid. And it was like, what am I doing with my life? So I would say those financial pressures never really went away as a student. In fact, they just increased further as I got into graduate school. You have a stipend, and I was really fortunate enough to have a graduate fellowship, but it still wasn't enough to pay for daycare and rent and a car and everything else that piles up. And I think there was a lot of pressure to, I have to, first and foremost, take care of my family, my kids. And so that was a driving stress pretty much through the whole time. But you find ways to make ends meet. You get creative. You have a lot of amazing support, a big support network that helps you do some of those things. I think because I had such a great support network. I mean, for example, when I went out to Ann Arbor for my PhD, my mom came out and lived with us, my daughter and I, for about 3 months to make sure I had my feet underneath me and I got into the program and I had someone helping me find someone for daycare. And I mean, I had an amazing support structure through my family and especially in a place where I knew nobody. So that was kind of the thing that kept me going. And then the financial pressures, which are just always going to be there, was something that I had to find mediation for. And as long as I was great with my support network, I was able to kind of achieve some of these goals. But feeling like a failure most of the time, or wondering if this is the right route for success, and self-doubt was like ever prevalent the entire time I was doing it. And that's just something I think when you're in it, and you're, in that pot of boiling water, you can't see your way out. It's tough. Yeah.
Yeah. So did you ever go back to get your PhD and finish it? Or is that something that is maybe another goal for you in the future?
Yeah, I mean, I think about it a lot. There's opportunities for me to do that for sure. I think at this moment in time, I'm very invested in my career where I'm at, and I'm really happy that I'm getting to do the things I would be doing. I work for a very innovative company at Woodward. I work on combustion products, and I love the work. I love the people. I love the science and the research that goes behind it. So I'm getting that cup filled in what I'm doing now. And I think, you never know, because if someone had told me, 10, 15 years ago, you'd go for a PhD in aerospace engineering and, oh yeah, you'd also have a chemical engineering degree, I'd be like, you're crazy. That's not even me. So who's to say where I'm going to be in 10, 15 years, or what my choice is going to be to get there. So it's always in the back of the mind. It's something that, if there's a time and a place and it's the right choice for me and family and my partner or my husband now at the time, then maybe I'll jump for it.
So let's talk about that, because I feel like when people get on a path, they have to stick to that one path. And when you think about maybe pivoting or adapting to a different path, it can be extremely stressful, especially when you have other things that you're thinking about that are stressful. But one of the things you mentioned, you're waiting in line at the food bank and it's like, okay, I have to feed myself and my kid, and I need to make a decision. So I can understand that whole, like, okay, let's pick this other path because that's what's going to be great for me now. And this other thing can be in the future somewhere later down the line. What advice would you give to someone facing a similar left turn in their career? Because it can be a really intimidating feeling and a very nauseating feeling. Because I just had a conversation with someone that I know, and they have this opportunity to either stick with the company that they're with or start something on their own. And they have this sense of loyalty to the company, but there's really no more room to move up the ladder for them. And there's a better opportunity for them to do something more fulfilling on their own. So they're kind of stuck at this balancing act of like, do I stay loyal to the company that's been loyal to me, or do I try to branch out and do something on my own? Like, what's your advice for individuals like that?
Yeah, it's a tough place to be in. And I think everybody's been in this kind of what I like to think of as like a fork in the road. For this, I always try to take, as cheesy as it sounds, a 30,000 foot view. Okay, when you fly above the forest, all of a sudden there's like so many other paths that you didn't see. Sometimes that left fork in the road veers and actually goes back to the right, and you would have ended up on that road. You have opportunities to make these decisions, and they're never really permanent in a lot of ways. Okay, so if you leave a company, it's probably pretty permanent, right? But who's to say you're not going to end up back later? Or if you leave graduate school for industry, you have an opportunity to go back. I mean, these are the decisions points that I talk with a lot of my mentees as well, is that we put a lot of weight on these kinds of decisions because they're big. But you always have the option to kind of, reevaluate your path and pivot as you need. And the best way to make these kinds of really tough decisions, I think, it's really a gut check. I mean, you really have to be in tune of like, what is it that you need without a lot of noise? And then making sure that the people who know you the best, your support structure, your family, whoever that might be, your mentors, also you check in with them and you get, some feedback from them. What are their thoughts, and make a pros and cons list. I mean, there's a lot of different strategies you can go about for big decision making. And I kind of curate those depending on, who I'm talking to about the decision that they're making. For me personally, I had a really wonderful, lifelong friend when I was deciding to leave graduate school. It was like, Angela, this is an opportunity that you've been talking about wanting to work in the industry for a long time. You have an opportunity to start looking and exploring that space. You're exploring, sharing a family with a person. This was my, at the time, my boyfriend, who's now my husband. So all these things it was great to have someone to be like, focus on what you see as, your absolute true desires. Are you achieving that? Are you achieving your true north by making this turn in the road? And if so, it's super scary, but you're going to land on your feet. And so it was, you have some people to kind of check in with you, but ultimately it was kind of a gut check. It was like, we're going to do this and we're going to see how it happens. But I had trust in that sense that it was the right direction for me. And it ended up being the best direction for me for that place and time. And, in the future too. So, yeah, it's a tough place to be in. I think a lot of it has to be, you really have to feel it out with your heart, not just your head.
So let's touch on that with mentorship, because I feel like that's a very important thing and very essential thing for anyone pursuing career pathways in engineering and manufacturing, especially women. Because there's been a lot of women that I've talked to who are like, if it wasn't for my mentors, I would probably not be in this industry anymore, because it can be hard and it can be tough. So, you've mentioned a couple mentors already, but who have been like the main mentors that really influenced your journey? And what role has mentorship really played in your transition from academia to industry?
I would echo that statement that my mentors have really been the support structure to get me where I am. And then also learning how to be a mentor, whether it's a peer mentor or whether I'm mentoring other folks who are going down a similar path that I went. It is everything for me. And I think part of that is where that like strong structure and that support gave me the confidence to say, this is where I'm going to go. I think it's confidence building. I think it's strategic planning. It's always great to have somebody who has a higher visibility than you do to tell you, not to tell you what to do or how to do it, but to give you that perspective and then to like give you some actions to work on and kind of get you to explore those things. And having multiple mentors is key, right? Not just one mentor has driven my path is where I'm here. And this is me too. I'm self-driving, but I've leaned on, mentors and friends in many different areas. And I think that was probably a key part of it too, is that it's important to have mentors in different places in your life. And we all have mentors. We may not just have a formalized relationship in the mentor, right? Like we have mentors in our parents and mentors in our friends, but to build a formalized mentorship network where you look to see where are the gaps and who I'm looking for, where I want to go, and who can help me guide me there, whether it's something that I don't have experience in or someone that may have similar experience, and then make sure that you're kind of filling those gaps. So for me, I was looking for mentors outside of just my advisor, right? When I was in academia, I was making mentors out of professors in different departments, other professors that, maybe weren't in my field of study, but I had interactions with. I was building a really great, my peer mentorship within the plasma dynamics and electric propulsion lab was incredible. I'm still in touch with, many of those folks now, and they continue to inspire me and mentor me as well. And we stay in touch. And, those were mostly graduate students. And so they were hugely helpful and beneficial for me to kind of make sure that I was on the right track, to give me the confidence I needed, to help me fight off some of the imposter syndrome and, the fear of what am I doing and where am I going, because they were just able to say, yeah, there are other students who've done this too. And here's who you should talk to. They've connected me with other mentors. I even had, someone who was an alumni from the lab who's now a professor at Western Michigan University, Dr. Christina Lemmer, who was wonderfully instrumental in letting me just like cold call her, like, hey, I don't know you, but you're in West Michigan and I'm about to make this big jump, can you talk to me? And so it was about really seeking out lots of different perspectives and building that network. And so I continue to do that in my professional career, whether it's people that work at Woodward as I'm, trying to plan out my career strategy, or people who work similarly in the industry, but in different companies. And then in my nonprofit networks and outreach networks as well. It's like, I'm just constantly making sure that I'm evaluating that mentor network and recognizing it. And then, you adjust as needed.
I think those are really good steps for anyone who's looking to build out their mentor network to follow, because again, you don't want to think that you only have one person to have mentor you. You want to look at the skill sets that you're trying to improve on and build out, and then follow those individuals that are really good at the things that you're not very good at, and then set up meetings or conversations with them, and then reaching out to any of the organizations you belong to or want to belong to. Are there any other resources that you go to, such as social media platforms, to look for mentorships? Because like LinkedIn is the one that comes to my mind. Like I've connected with so many amazing people on that platform, and I've gotten a couple mentors from there. Are there any other platforms that you think would be a good fit to find mentors on?
Yeah, I mean, that's a great one because you can mentor like locally as well. You can find folks that are either local or outside of local and build those relationships. The Society of Women Engineers is where I'm a mentor, and you can have other professional mentors or mentees or students. And so they actually have a mentorship platform. So you go on, you build your profile, you assess what you think, you decide if you want to be a mentee or a mentor, and then you kind of put what your expertise is if you're a mentor, and then you leave a calendar invite open, and then they let anybody who's part of that membership and that network reach out to you and set up a meeting. And so I continue to mentor students and young professionals across the country with this platform. It's a really fantastic place if you're a woman in engineering that's looking for this. If you're not a woman, that's fine too. I think most of the mentor networks that I've been building off of are through local nonprofits or women in tech organizations, things like that, like tech councils in my local area, where you can connect with other people who are your peers or above in your industry or even in a different industry, and can leverage those relationships. So, any opportunity that you have for a networking event or a conference is an opportunity to make a mentor. And so I think there are probably more opportunities than we realize. It's about like recognizing that and taking advantage of it, and understanding, who it is that you're looking for to build these relationships with.
I think that's a really good point too. And don't like set up limitations based on age or gender either. Like I feel like there's a lot of older generations that get a lot of great information from younger generations, especially when it comes to like technology stuff. Because my daughter is 21, and then my two boys are 5 and 6, and they teach me so much about technology because it just comes natural to them. So I'm just like, teach me this. Yes. How do you do that?
Yes. I get so much out of my mentee relationships. Like I really do. It's a two-way street, 100%. And I love it.
How many people are you mentoring right now through that platform?
Through the platform, consistently like 2 at the moment, but so I'll get like kind of one-offs here and there, but there's 2 that I've kind of just followed along. And then I do like seminars at industry seminars at university classrooms, sometimes virtually, it's sometimes in person, and I tend to kind of collect mentees along the way. So I'm mentoring students from different universities in chemical engineering and in aerospace engineering, both men and women. And so kind of collectively mentoring about 3 to 4 throughout each month. And they tend to stick with it. I usually mentor a couple of them a couple years, and then, then they go off into the world and they touch base and they let me know how things are, and some new mentees come in. So it's a treasure for sure.
That's awesome. Well, one of the other things that you're deeply involved with is nonprofit work, and you helped co-found the Women of the Aerospace Industry Association of Michigan, which is a very long acronym, and that's within Grand Rapids. So what drives your passion for these types of initiatives? Why is it so important for you to be involved in this nonprofit work?
Right. So for me, specifically for the aerospace work, and the Aerospace Industry Association of Michigan is actually a statewide organization, which is fantastic. There's such a great reach there, because I didn't have this opportunity when I was young. I didn't know that there were women. I didn't even know what engineers were, but I never had the opportunity of being exposed to women who were working in STEM. And I feel like had I had that, I don't know where, maybe I'd end up here, but it would have probably been a very different path for me. And so it's part of that kind of give back of, I really want young women and men, I want kids to know that these careers are out there and what it actually means. I think, when I was young, I thought if I wanted to do something that was related to space, I had to be an astronaut. There are so many cool amazing, stable, incredible careers. And this goes, everything from skilled trades to engineering to finance, like you name it, you can support. That is something I'm really excited about, I think. So, yeah, WAIAM allows me to, along with the other co-founders, allowed me to kind of find an outlet for that, build something into making an outreach or a pipeline for talent, because that's also, something that not just here, but across STEM. And there needs to be a pathway to get them there, and to get kids also in underrepresented districts and where they don't have access to STEM exposure or STEM careers. And so this is an outlet, and it's an amazing organization that's allowed us to kind of build this and has funded this. Now that there is a nonprofit foundation associated with the Aerospace Industry Association of Michigan, and they're the arm that's really going to expand this impact and work. So it's really cool to be a part of that. For me, it's kind of it's just natural. It's a give back. There were a lot of people who gave to me foundations, scholarships, fellowships that helped me on my path. And we're just trying to do that, but with younger kids.
Do you have one particular story in mind of the impact that this organization has really helped drive within your community?
Yeah, for WAIAM, it's the Michigan Girls Future Flight Challenge. So this was kind of a little brainchild between Stacy Paul from Array of Engineers and myself and a few other women that started it off, where we wanted to create a statewide virtual aerospace challenge for girls in 4th to 8th grade, where they're going to, still have an open-ended problem to solve and they can be creative, but we're kind of sneaking in the STEM inside there. But also the challenge, which is we're working on year 4 in the fall this year, so it's been growing over time, and it's over 250 girls across the state have participated in the last 3 years, and we pair them up with professional women mentors for a 4-week challenge. So they come up with teams of girls, and we give them this open-ended challenge to build a flight solution to solve a problem. And it's just so cool to see them think in terms of not just design thinking, but we give them the challenge of, hey, you need to come up with a business plan. You have to think about finances and who's going to run your company, where are you going to get your money? And we're giving them challenges that they haven't seen yet in the classroom, and then giving them resources like professional women in aerospace to build bridges and to network and to give them some exposure, and so that they have all the tool sets that they need to kind of try something out on a limb and see if it's a good fit for them, and just to get excited about it. So that program I'm incredibly proud of. There's a whole bunch of amazing people that fund it and support it, and have helped with the administration of it. Taylor Apker, who's our admin at AIAM, is like the backbone of this whole program. And so there's just a lot of people, a lot of hands in the pot that help make that happen. And that program I'm super excited about, and would love to see it pilot and launch further than Michigan. But we're doing really great work with it right now.
I would have to say that a program like that too is also really beneficial for the industry, because it's bringing in ideas that maybe some of the experts and the professionals might have not thought of. So it's actually helping you strengthen your whole decision-making process and problem-solving process, because some of these issues probably do come up in industry, and it gives you a different perspective, because kids, they're not like limited yet, right? Because
exactly.
They haven't had that teaching or
social conditioning or whatever you want to call it. Yeah, where they're they're super free and creative, and they have these really out of the box ideas, and you're like, wow, that's brilliant. Why haven't we thought of that?
That's really cool. So is there like a big award or like reward or something for the winner? Or what happens with
so the teams we've been doing, it's usually cash awards or gift certificates for Barnes and Noble, that kind of thing. So the prizes change a little bit every year, but that's the goal is to work towards the cash or gift certificate award. And then this year it's really cool. Professor George Hello at the University of Michigan Aerospace Engineering Department had offered to take the winning teams to University of Michigan's Aero Department and give them a tour and introduce them to the students so they could see the labs. And it kind of bridges that whole, okay, so we did this challenge and we've met with these professional women. Now we get to talk to students and ask them how they got from where we are to where they are, and see the work that's being done in the aerospace engineering department. So we've been partnering, with some institutions for these kinds of things. And I think that as a prize alone in itself is just going to be really life-changing, I hope, for some of these girls that have the opportunity to go from winning the challenge.
That's really cool. Well, in terms of on the professional side, how can more professionals within engineering and manufacturing get involved with nonprofit work such as this or industry advocacy? Because I feel like there's a lot of people that want to do it, but then they think dollars, right? And they're like, oh, well, we don't have the budget for this. And it's like, well, create the budget for it and start investing in some of these programs, because this is going to help close some of those workforce challenges gaps that we have. So what is your advice to professionals who want to get more involved and be advocates for programs like this?
Right. So, I mean, being a member of your local association, if it's IEEE or, the Aerospace Industry Association of Michigan or what, there's opportunities to find those organizations, become a member, and there's opportunities through there. But on the nonprofit sector too, like anywhere you live, there's local philanthropic networks that are doing this work. They just don't have the largest voice typically. And so it's important to get out and network and find out who they are. For example, there are starting to become these nonprofit collaborations. So I'm going to put another plug in for Grand Rapids Giving Day, which was, it is a movement of collaborating with nonprofit partners that are female founded, grassroots, kind of scrappy, and really making great change, social justice focus locally here in the community in West Michigan. And so there's 50 of them that we put this event together on Giving Day, which is in a Tuesday in December, right after Thanksgiving, and got them together and tries to raise a collective goal and then split that goal, as well as inspire acts of kindness. So this is not the first one that's like this across the country. Amplify Austin was a great pilot to look at. Those guys are raising millions and millions of dollars and doing amazing things for the city. And so there are nonprofit collaborations. This is just a great example because you can go to the Grand Rapids Giving Day website, and there is all of our 50 nonprofit partners are listed. So you can look and see by topic, what are they doing? What are you interested in? Where is your passion, and where do you want to see change happen? And then you can, learn more about the local nonprofits that are there. We're not the only ones who are doing this, but so getting involved in wherever your passion is. If your passion is outreach or STEM, or if you're really interested in how do you clean water, or your environmental challenges, or whatever it is that your passion is, there's a nonprofit that's doing that work. And sometimes it can be hard to find one where it's not just sponsorship based, like the funds and the volunteering. The volunteering is more, I think, almost more important than just sponsorship and money. Although if you can donate, that's a huge way for them to meet their end goals. If you physically want to put your body somewhere and your time somewhere, you're going to see that impact like tenfold over. And I think the opportunity is there. You just have to kind of look for it.
Mm-hmm. So then before I ask you this question, is there any other organizations or sort of STEM initiatives? Because there's like Skills USA, and then there's First Robotics. Do you guys partner with any of those initiatives?
Yeah, actually, First Robotics was the very first Women in Aerospace event WAIAM did back in 2021. It was virtual because we were still in the world of virtual events with COVID. And we partnered with them with some NASA engineers, with local women that work in aerospace, and then students that had participated in First Robotics when they were younger and were now college students, and then participating students in First Robotics, and made up these panels as kind of an exposure event as well. So we've partnered with them. We have amazing partners with Women in Manufacturing. We've done lots of different events with them. One that's up and coming that we're kind of evolving and seeing how to grow it is She Innovates, She Leads, which is also partnered with we partnered last year with Girl Scouts Shore to Shore of Michigan, Shore to Shore. And then we also partner with the My STEM legislative group in order to kind of build out STEM curriculum, give exposure of women who do work in STEM careers, and build these panels that can go from classroom to classroom. We did an in-person event at GVSU last year, but we're looking at how do we take this, kind of pilot it and take it to different locations to expose more students to what women are doing in STEM. And everybody can learn from that. So there's lots of strategic partner groups. I'm sure I'm forgetting others. Women in Aviation is another big one we partner with. And that's how you get your impact. That's how you get your growth. So for us, when we just started out from, nothing, we didn't have, if you're looking for this outreach or this nonprofit and it doesn't exist, I promise you there are others out there who are interested and will join forces with you and make it work, and will strategically partner. And that's kind of how a lot of these events really took liftoff in the last few years, was through strategic partnering.
Yeah, it's really important, because that old saying, "It takes a village," is not far off. Like, it's absolutely 100% true. Well, looking back, Angela, at your journey, what's one piece of advice you wish you had when you were first starting out?
I love this question because I recently read, I can't say it's my idea. It was Phoebe Waller-Bridges, who wrote Fleabag and Killing Eve. I don't know if you're a fan of her work. She's amazing. She said, and I love this because I feel the same way, I wouldn't go back and give advice. I would go back and ask advice. I'd be like, remind me, because I think as a kid, we're so fiery and we have all these ideas about what we're going to be and how we're going to change the world, and they kind of get dulled over time or forgotten as we age and grow. And I think, as kind of new and naive and young I also had a big passion about like where I wanted to be, and I wanted to do big things, and I wanted to just, burn it all down, and so how do I go back and remember those things? How do I still have that same passion and remember my like childlike, whimsy and passion and excitement of looking at the world through not a jaded lens, but an excited lens of like how much there is to offer. How can I impact? How can I stay involved in a community? What do I love out of life? And that's kind of how I think about that. Is I'd rather go back and be reminded what I should not be forgetting as I age.
I love that advice. Do you still play cello? Do you incorporate it in any way with your STEM stuff?
Right. I that's a great idea. I have not thought about incorporating it into STEM, but now you've given me something to really chew the fat on this year. I don't play it as much as I like. Between my daughter and my husband's two daughters, we have a mixed household, and they're two in high school and one in middle school. And we have a violinist, we have a violist, we have someone who sings in choir, we have a rower, and they're all doing these things together. So it's been a lot of supporting them and kind of putting my musical inclination to the side while I'm busy with my nonprofit and outreach work. But every once in a while it comes out and I play. But I think this year was like the self-care year goal for me, was how do I focus more on me and how do I make sure that I'm giving myself the time I need? And I think the cello's in there somewhere.
Not to make anyone mad or anything, but it's the best string instrument out there. I used to play it a long time ago, and it was my favorite thing ever. It's just relaxing to play. And I love the fact that they're coming out with more videos with the electric cellos, and people are just jamming out. I think it's great that they're popular. Like, they're making that type of music popular through different genres of music. I think it's awesome.
You can buy a pickup for like a couple $100 and put it on your stringed instrument. You don't have to have an electric, and you can plug it into an amp. That is a real thing.
Oh, I didn't know that. That's cool.
Oh,
See, and manufacturing is the reason for that. So why should I manufacture? Well, Angela, what's next for you? Like, what are some of the projects you're working on or initiatives you're looking forward to? Are you going to any conferences or trade shows? What can we expect to see from you?
So I just got to put one last plug in. There's an amazing group of women in tech in Grand Rapids, run through the Right Place and Jen Wangler. And we have an event we've been putting together for the last couple of years. It's called Go Beyond. It's February 27th. If you're able to make it to Grand Rapids, it's at the GVSU campus downtown. There's still a few registration spots left. This is a day-long conference for women in tech that's going to be led by Anna Baton, who is an incredible speaker. And the whole workshop it's like an engagement workshop. Is based on like how we fail and how we can use that moving forward in our careers and our personal lives. So that's something that I've done the last couple of years with some women in the city, and it's just an incredible group, and I'm very excited for that. So that's my upcoming conference for the month. There's lots of technical conferences that are coming up in aerospace that I keep very busy with as a product technology manager. And I get to see, folks from all over the country when I get to do that. And I really do enjoy that work. doing a lot of work with sustainable aviation fuels. So there'll be a trip out to Brussels for the ASTM aviation fuels meeting. So we're going to be connecting with our UK and European counterparts for that meeting, and always love when there's international collaboration. That's what this industry is. So there's lots of upcoming meetings and activities happening this year. So it's going to be a busy year for travel and networking and mentor finding.
So one of the initial things you were talking about is, the different types of engineering and not really knowing what a chemical engineer is, but you just said that you're a product technology manager. So what is a product technology manager? Like, what are some of the things that you focus on and the skill sets that you bring to that position?
Sure. I think it's different everywhere you go. And it's sometimes called like a product line manager or product manager. But the way, if you take it in a very literal sense, the products that we produce here, and so I'm in the Zealand plant for Woodward, and we do energy fuel control products. So we're making combustion products that go into a jet engine and gas turbines. And the products, those are the products that we make. And so it's a manufacturing plant, but it's the technology, basically the R&D and the development and the tech that goes into that. We're basically managing that, as in we are looking to find placement, basically to get it on wing, get the technology and the innovations that we develop here, and eventually find their way into, on wing, whether commercial or military or otherwise. So it's bridging that, it's a very heavily engineering focused role. So you're still in the tech bit, but it's also commercial, right? You are facing the customer, you are representing, in a lot of sense, the marketing and the branding of the work that you're doing, but it's got a very heavy technical portion of it. And you're supporting the sales team, you're supporting the engineering team by flowing information back from the industry and the market so we can make better technical decisions. You're managing proposals that are coming in and building out opportunities for business development. So it's kind of this really cool role where you wear a lot of hats. It's all very technically based, but you get to, interface with lots of different groups of people and teams. And I think that's my favorite part about it. I'm definitely a people person and a networker. And I love to build relationships. And so I'm, building relationships with the customer or with cross-functional teams across Woodward. That's probably my favorite part of the job.
But it sounds cross-cultural too, because you're going all over the world to learn more about it and do research, which for nerds like me, I'd be really happy with that type of position because I just love learning about new things. Well, Angela, I do want to give you an opportunity to ask our audience a question. So if you had one question for our audience, what is the biggest ask you would have for them?
Yeah, I would ask, what are you doing for yourself? And if you could choose one thing that you've been thinking about trying to do for a long time, what is stopping you from taking that step to do it?
I love that. So then what is the quickest way for people to connect with you? And if they have any questions about, the nonprofit work that you're doing or any questions about Woodward, what's the easiest way to connect with you?
Far and above, it's LinkedIn. So it's super easy to find me. You can DM me there. That's where a lot of my folks who are interested in mentorship or connection, just reach out there, and I'm happy to connect with you. If you want to learn more about Woodward, we've recently beefed up our website. So it's super slick and cool and gives you an opportunity to kind of explore what we do there. So it's another way to do it too.
You guys have a facility close to me, and I'm trying to get in there for a tour.
We get
because it's
2. Yeah. Hey, let's talk. I can make that happen.
Let's make that happen because it looks really slick. But I do want to introduce you to Emily Wilkins and Sammy Birch because they're out in near the Grand Rapids region, and they might be interested in that event that you're having up. So, well, Angela, thank you so much for taking time out of your day to chat with me on Mavens Manufacturing. I really appreciate the conversation. And to anyone who's interested in, how you can get involved in more nonprofit work, especially if you're in the Michigan area, please reach out to Angela. And if you're interested in Woodward, definitely reach out to her as well. I hope you guys have a wonderful Wednesday, and please stay tuned because we have a word from our sponsor coming up next. Have a great one, everyone. Bye.
Thanks so much. Thanks, Megan.
This episode of Mavens in Manufacturing has been sponsored by Z Inc Solutions. Z Inc Solutions. This isn't your grandmother's copywriting service. We provide copywriting and copy editing services that provide impactful text and memorable storytelling for a variety of brands and industries. Contact us today at zincSolutions.com. That's z-incsolutions.com.